Elisa Lam's final minutes. January 31st, 2013. The Cecil Hotel in Los Angeles. 2:32. Elisa Lam, a 21-year-old student from Canada, enters the elevator. At first glance, just an ordinary girl returning to her room after a long day. But what happened next turned routine surveillance footage into one of the most chilling and inexplicable pieces of evidence in history. Elisa presses the floor button. The elevator doesn't move. She presses again and again. The doors remain open, as if something invisible is blocking them from closing. At this moment, something changes in her behavior. First, she peers out of the elevator, cautiously, as if checking whether someone is in the hallway. Her movements become nervous, erratic. She hides in the corner of the cabin, pressing against the wall, as if trying to become invisible from something horrible. Then the most frightening part begins. Elisa steps out into the hallway and starts dancing. But this isn't dancing, it's something else. Her arms move in wave-like motions, as if she's swimming in invisible water. Her fingers bend at unnatural angles, like a marionette in the hands of a mad puppeteer. Picture this. You're watching someone having a conversation with emptiness. Elisa turns to an invisible companion, her lips moving silently. Who is she talking to? What does she see that the cameras can't capture? The most chilling detail. Her movements become increasingly robotic, as if someone is controlling her body from the outside. Body language experts still can't explain these movements. They don't match any known psychological condition. After 4 minutes of this nightmare, Elisa walks away. The elevator immediately starts working normally. 19 days later, her naked body is found in a water tank on the hotel roof. The water that guests had been drinking was contaminated with decomposition byproducts. Official cause of death, accidental drowning. But how did she get into the tank? The lid was too heavy for one person. How did she end up on the roof of a restricted area? And most importantly, what was happening in that elevator? Here's what official sources don't mention. The tuberculosis test conducted after finding the body is called LAMELISA. Lam Elisa. Coincidence? In a case where nothing is a coincidence? What if Elisa saw something in that hallway? Something the cameras couldn't capture? Something that still roams the corridors of the Cecil Hotel? April 18th, 2016, 4:18 a.m. Creekside Church of Christ in Midlothian, Texas. Missy Bevers, a 45-year-old mother of 3, was supposed to lead a morning workout. She planned to arrive at 5 a.m., prepare the gym, and meet her students. A simple, ordinary day that would become the last of her life. But an hour before her arrival, surveillance cameras captured something terrifying. Through the church corridors, slowly, as if in a sinister dance, moves a figure in full tactical gear. Helmet, bulletproof vest marked police, protective knee pads. In their hands, a hammer. But this isn't a police officer. The movements are too strange, too inhuman. The figure aimlessly wanders through the church, opening and closing doors, breaking windows. There's no logic to the actions, no purpose. As if someone is rehearsing the role of a killer, preparing for the main performance. The most frightening part, the gait. Feet turned outward, strange limping, unnatural shoulder movements. Experts tried to determine gender. Impossible. Age, unknown. Even height varies from 5 feet 3 inches to 5 feet 9 inches, depending on the camera angle. Imagine yourself in Missy's place. You enter a familiar building where you've conducted hundreds of workouts, a peaceful, holy place. And suddenly, footsteps, metallic clang, a figure in the darkness with a hammer in hand. Missy was found an hour later, multiple head and chest wounds. The killer vanished, as if dissolved in the morning mist. The most chilling detail, 4 days before the murder, suspect Brandon's father brought a woman's shirt soaked in blood to the dry cleaner. Said he broke up a dogfight, but analysis showed someone had already tried to wash out the blood before bringing it to the cleaner. Whose blood was it? Why were they trying to hide it? And most importantly, did someone know about the upcoming murder in advance? 8 years later, the killer still hasn't been found. The figure in tactical gear remains a shadow wandering through surveillance recordings. But what if this wasn't a random encounter? What if Missy was chosen in advance? And what if the killer is still watching someone close to you? Pacific Ocean, 100 miles off the coast of San Diego. Navy pilot David Fravor is conducting a routine training flight. Radar picks up an unknown object. Fravor receives orders: intercept and identify. What he saw changed his life forever. Object the size of a fighter jet, but without wings, without engines, without exhaust. Recorded in the official report. A white oval object hung over the ocean, seemingly defying the laws of physics. When Fravor approached, the object instantly accelerated. Not gradually, instantly, like a ping pong ball bouncing off a wall. In 2 seconds, it covered a distance that would take a fighter jet minutes. In the recording, you can hear experienced military pilots losing their composure. "What the hell is that?" one of them shouts. "That's impossible," whispers another. The Pentagon hid these recordings for 13 years. Only in 2017 did they leak to the media. Official version: unidentified aerial phenomena. But here's what they don't say publicly. There are hundreds of such incidents. Every month, the military records objects that shouldn't exist according to the laws of modern physics. Objects that can develop speeds 20 times greater than any earthly aircraft. Most frightening, they show signs of intelligent behavior. They monitor military ships and bases. They react to interception attempts. They're studying us. Luis Elizondo, former director of the Pentagon's secret UFO study program, said in an interview, "There is very compelling evidence that we may not be alone." Think about this. Every night when you look at the starry sky, something is looking back at you, and this something has technology that makes our most advanced developments look like toys. July 8, 2014, Varna Airport, Bulgaria, 2:23 p.m. Lars Mittank, a 28-year-old programmer from Berlin, stands in line for boarding his flight home. An ordinary tourist returning after vacation. In a few hours, he was supposed to hug his mother, tell her about the trip, show photos. Instead, he became YouTube's most famous missing person. A few days before departure, Lars got into a fight at a bar. Torn eardrum, concussion. The doctor prescribed antibiotics and advised postponing the flight. But Lars insisted he wanted to go home. At the airport, he met with a doctor for a final examination. "You can fly," the doctor said. But something was wrong. Lars looked frightened, constantly looked around, asked strange questions about medications. During the examination, a construction worker entered the office. The airport was under renovation. An ordinary person in a hard hat and work clothes. But Lars's reaction was terrifying. "I don't want to die here. I have to get out of here," he screamed and ran out of the office. Security cameras captured everything. Lars runs through the airport corridor, abandoning all his belongings. Passport, phone, money, everything remains on the floor. He runs outside, climbs over a 6-foot fence, and disappears into the forest. No one has seen him since. The most chilling part of this story: 3 days before disappearing, Lars called his mother and whispered into the phone, "They're following me. They want to kill me." His mother thought it was delirium from the head injury. In the hotel room, cameras recorded Lars hiding in the elevator at midnight, leaving the building and returning hours later. Who was he hiding from? Who was he afraid of? Experts talk about a psychotic episode caused by medication. But this doesn't explain the main thing. Why hasn't his body been found yet? The forest around the airport was searched by hundreds of people with dogs. There's another theory. What if Lars really saw something? Something he wasn't supposed to see? And what if those who were following him got what they wanted? 9 years of searching, millions of video views, hundreds of false leads, but still no answer. Every time you feel like you're being watched, remember Lars. Maybe your paranoia isn't so unfounded after all. Story 5. The Chris Watts Family Nightmare. August 13th, 2018, 5:27 a.m. Frederick, Colorado. On neighbor's surveillance camera screen, an ordinary morning scene. Chris Watts loads a gas can into his pickup truck, an ordinary man preparing for his workday. But at that moment, the bodies of his pregnant wife and 2 little daughters lay in the bed of his truck. What makes this footage especially chilling? The complete ordinariness of what's happening. Chris looks calm, focused. No signs of panic or stress. He methodically loads tools, checks fastenings, starts the engine. A man who had strangled his family hours earlier behaves like an ordinary working guy heading to his shift. The most horrifying detail was revealed later. In his confession, Chris said the daughters were still alive when he loaded their mother's body. 4-year-old Bella asked, "Daddy, what are you doing to Mommy?" "Mommy is sick," he replied. Imagine this. A child sits next to her mother's body, trusting the father who will strangle her too in half an hour. Bella fought back. Her last words were, "Daddy, no. You can't see this in the recording." Chris looks like a loving father taking his family on a picnic. None of the neighbors suspected that hell was happening in that truck. What's most frightening about this story? The killer looked absolutely normal. Good neighbor, caring husband, loving father, until something broke in his head. Psychologists still can't explain what turns an ordinary person into a monster. Chris Watts had no history of mental illness, didn't use drugs, showed no aggression, and that's the scariest part. If it can happen to him, it can happen to anyone. Your neighbor, your coworker, your partner. Every time you see a happy family, remember this story. Sometimes the most terrible monsters hide behind the most ordinary faces.